You are listening to your New Puppies podcast, starting you and your dog off on the right paw. Here's your host, Debbie Salento.
Hello and welcome to episode 88 of your New Puppies podcast. I'm Debbie, and today I want to talk about 4 things you may or may not know about socialization. So I talk about socialization. It's sprinkled throughout my podcast. In fact, with each of these 4 things, I'm going to give you a podcast to get more information on. But the reason why I wanted to do this one here is because socialization is the most important training you can do for your puppy. And it's also the most widely overlooked and misunderstood part of your puppy's training. In general, socialization is exposing your dog to the world around them. That's the quick and dirty definition of it. And when properly done, socialization is what creates your well-adjusted dog. You have a confident dog that you can take to new places. They know how to behave. They're not scared of new environments. They get along with people. They get along with dogs. It's that well-adjusted part of raising your puppy. Well-behaved is teaching them manners and skills to help support those manners. But if we want a confident, well-adjusted dog, socialization is what we need. Okay, so I've chosen the 4 things that I think are the most misunderstood about socialization so we can correct that a little bit. And again, I'm going to give you even more information by directing you to some of my older podcasts. Now, if you have no idea what socialization is, stick around because this is also going to give you a very good idea and overview of what exactly it entails. So let's dive in to number 1. Socialization isn't just about dogs. When I say socialization, you probably think of all the dogs your puppy has or will play with. While interacting with dogs and playing with other dogs and learning how to communicate with other dogs is a very important part of your dog's socialization, it's only a small part. Socialization is teaching your puppy how to handle the world around them. So that includes people, environments, textures, sounds, being handled, driving in a car, getting used to moving objects like cars and bikes and runners, kids as well as adults, and yes, other dogs. And even when we talk about, say, people or kids, we want all different types. Women in coats, men in hats, kids wearing backpacks, tall people, short people, people with different types of hair and skin color. During COVID, Ollie got very upset with people who were wearing masks. If somebody with a mask approached him, he got very defensive because it was just something like he'd never seen before. And yeah, when he was a puppy, I didn't think to socialize him to that. But those are the things I'm talking about. Like something as simple as putting a mask on our face could really throw a dog off. But when they're younger, which we're going to talk about in a second, if we expose them to all these different things, they're less likely to have an adverse reaction. Or really, it's a fear-based reaction to it. And most dogs are going to come up with these little quirks, and our goal is just to minimize them. So for this one, I'm going to direct you to episode 74, which is how to socialize your puppy without even leaving the house. And this is just to help you kind of think outside the box a little bit and kind of get a grasp of socialization as more than just dogs or even people. Number 2, experience matters. So even if we know about socialization or if we listen to trainers, we might think, okay, I'm going to throw my dog out there. I'm going to take him everywhere and expose him to as many things as possible, which, yes, even I am a little guilty of putting that message out there. but with the caveat of it has to be a positive experience. We want to give them as many positive experiences as possible. So, some dogs are confident social butterflies by nature. It's just their temperament. So they are going to do very well in just about any situation you throw them into. But this isn't all puppies. We need to realize that puppies can be shy too. We think of them as these big social butterflies, but again, their temperament could just be a little bit more reserved, a little bit more shy, a little bit more slow to warm up. And we need to respect that. And we need to go at their pace. So sometimes it's about going to more low-key environments or going slower in the activities that we do. Like we don't want to invite 50 friends over. Maybe it's just one or two. We don't, drop them into daycare at 3 months old because that's just too much for them. For this one, I highly recommend episode 63, where I talk about my 7 guidelines to socializing your dog, because every single one of them is designed to make sure it is a positive experience. Number 3, age matters. The most effective time to socialize your puppy, give your puppy this exposure to the world, is between the ages of 3 to 16 weeks. Exposing them to the various experiences during this age sets them up to grow into that confident dog because they are absorbing everything. Their little brains are growing so fast that these positive experiences at this age are going to have the greatest impact. So even if, you don't expose them to somebody wearing a mask, if you expose them to enough different people, they'll be able to deal with change and new experiences and, something that maybe is unexpected later on. They also have really great bounce back, which means if something negative does happen, because the world isn't perfect, we're not perfect, it's easier to help them recover from it. It's easier to switch that to a good association. For example, really common experience of my clients is they're in their backyard and their neighbor's dog starts barking and their puppy gets scared of it. Now, we can quickly change that association of that fear of a dog barking, because we have to keep in mind that our puppies' brains fully develop at 5 months old. Like, this happens fast. And I think what happens is, besides the fact that we get advice to not take our puppies anywhere during these weeks because of vaccinations, and I have information for you on that in a second, but there's so many other things going on during this time that we kind of ignore it. We kind of give ourselves permission to push it away, when really everything else we're doing is the stuff that can wait. Socialization can't. Potty training, crate training, socialization. Those are your 3 priorities when you have a young puppy under 4 months old. So for this one, I'm going to send you to episode 21, which again, this is one I highly recommend, especially if you're like, no, my dog's not vaccinated, I can't take him out. I talk about balancing vaccines and socialization. Okay, so that's episode 21. And number 4 is sometimes socialization is about dogs. Now, the misconception with this one is that socializing with other dogs our goal isn't for your dog to love other dogs, to grow up and want to play with other dogs, love the dog park, love daycare, and all of your friends' dogs. The goal is to teach them how to properly communicate with other dogs. Because most dogs, as they mature, as they grow up, they become what we call dog selective. That they have their best friends, they have the types of dogs they really like to play with. Maybe it has to do with size or play style or anything like that. But not every single dog is a dog they want to be friends with. And that's okay. What socializing them as a puppy does is it teaches them to communicate that properly. So when they're older and you're at the dog park and this dog wants to come over and wrestle with your dog, but your dog's not into wrestling. They'd rather chase. They know how to communicate that without causing an issue with the other dog, assuming the other dog is also well socialized. Now, despite the fact that the dogs is the first thing we usually think of, and sometimes we get pigeonholed into when we think about socialization, it's actually the hardest one to do properly. The best dogs for your puppy to be socialized with are well-socialized adult dogs, because they're the ones that are going to teach them how to communicate. Other puppies are great. Adolescent dogs are great. But you're going to get the best bang for your buck if you have a well-socialized adult dog. And depending on your circle of friends and family, this may or may not be easy to come by because you have to know the dog. You have to know they're healthy. And again, you have to know that they're well socialized. I can't emphasize that enough. You know, our neighbor's dog that we sort of know, but we know that they're an adult dog. Like, we can't take chances like that because just like we want our dogs to be able to communicate with other dogs appropriately if it's not a well-socialized dog, if they have inappropriate play habits, or they don't appropriately back other dogs off when they're not happy, our puppy can learn those habits. The other part of this is just having another dog in the household or a neighbor's dog or one or two family dogs doesn't make a well-socialized dog. Just like when I was talking about with people, we have to expose them to all different types of dogs. They come in all different shapes and sizes. They have all different types of play styles. You know, some dogs have floppy ears, some dogs have pointed ears, some dogs have all different length tails. And those are all ways that dogs communicate. So you want your puppy as they're growing up to recognize all different types of dogs' body language. Okay, a common thing that I've seen is that dogs don't like the push nose breeds, like a bulldog or a Frenchie, because they sound different, they breathe different, they move differently. And so they make them nervous and they get defensive with them. So this, of course, makes our job even harder. This is why I am a huge fan of puppy classes and daycares. Because, you know, a puppy class, there's a trainer there. You know, yes, you're going to learn the basics, but you want one that centers around socialization, that allows the puppies to interact with an educated professional supervising to make sure that everybody's having a safe and good time. You know, bigger puppies are going to learn how to be gentle with smaller puppies, and smaller puppies are going to learn confidence with the bigger dogs. You know, they're going to find that I prefer the dogs who like to chase. I prefer the dogs that like to wrestle. And you're going to learn that about your dog as well. And the daycares are similar because they're going to be exposed to a bunch of different dogs. They've been temperament tested. They make sure that they have their vaccines, and you have a trained staff. Now, of course, you want to confirm all of these things before you just choose a facility and go. But allowing your puppy to go to daycare couple times a week, just for a couple hours. No, I don't like all day daycares for young puppies because I think it's a little too much. But 2 to 4 hours, you get your socialization in, they get nice and tired out, you get a little bit of a break, and it's a win-win situation. And I always like to mention here, I don't like dog parks. Most trainers don't. I always say that a dog park is not a place to socialize your dog. It's a place to bring your dog that is already socialized, because you never know what you're going to encounter at the dog park. Because a lot of owners just don't know. Sometimes they don't know their dog's being inappropriate, and you don't want to take that risk with your puppy. Even if they're vaccinated, even if, you know, everybody there is healthy, it's not as monitored and regulated as a daycare would be. And that's the episode I'm going to send you to for this one, is episode 13, where I talk about daycares versus dog parks. I also have a bonus episode for this one for you, which is episode 58, where I talk about how to recognize appropriate dog play. Now, this is more for like adolescent dogs, but it has some videos in there in the show notes that demonstrate like what appropriate play looks like if you've never seen it. Because if you've never sat there and studied dog behavior, dog body language, you probably don't know. And that's okay because most people don't do that. That's why I'm here. And that's it. Oh, that was number 4. I could talk about socialization forever. There's a reason why it's the biggest lesson inside my puppy course, Your Perfect Puppy, which is now included when you join Playtime Paws Academy, because it's not only important, but other than potty training and crate training, it should be taking up most of your time with your puppy in those early weeks. So the point of this episode wasn't to teach you everything there is to know about socialization, but to give you a better idea of what you may or may not know. And if there are things that you're like, I wasn't sure of that, or I thought something different, there's the other resources. And of course, if you reach out to me, I can't always answer all the questions, but when I get the same question a lot, usually a podcast episode gets made out of it. So that is all I have for you today. If you are enjoying this podcast, you can rate and review it wherever you listen. That helps other puppy owners find the podcast. And if you would like to continue training with me, you can check out my website, playtimepaws.com. I have both digital, which means you can train with me from anywhere, and local services if you are in the North Jersey area. Most of my digital services include direct access to me. My favorite thing to do is to jump on Zoom with my clients so I can talk to you directly about any issues that you are having and help point you in the right direction. So again, playtimepaws.com and just click work with me. All the information's there. Otherwise, I'll see you back here next time. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.